Let's talk a little Florida Gator recruiting coming out of a big recruiting weekend. It was a junior day down in Gainesville, and there were some big-time names on campus. I got Corey Bender here in studio with me. No, he's not at the desk, but trust me, he's about 15 feet away. I could throw my pen and hit him if I wanted to. But before we get going, UF fans, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button to the On3 Recruits channel. All right, let's bring in Corey Bender. There he is, and we're going to talk about one of the 5 stars that was on campus all the way from Baltimore, Maryland, Manny Iacho. He is the number 2 offensive tackle, number 2 ranked player overall, and he was in Gainesville this weekend. What's your feel for his recruitment coming out of this one?
Yeah, Jess, he was straight to the point. He told us right now Florida's probably number 6 on his list, and if you probably a few months ago, Florida wasn't even in his top 10. That all changed. Jonathan DeCoster, one of Florida's offensive line coaches, visited him at school the week prior, convinced him to visit over Georgia. Those are the 2 schools that are trying to get him on campus last weekend. Florida won out, and obviously Florida still has a little bit of room to make up there, but they're on the rise. It's one of those. I think Oregon right now is the clear-cut leader. You have Georgia at number 2 behind them. But the kid was straight. He was really honest with us. He said, Florida's on the rise, but they have a little bit of ground to make up, and he wants to come back in the spring, see the coaching style, see how Rob Sale, John DeCoster, how they coach, and then from there he might send an OV. So I think that next visit, it's kind of a wait and see. He called this past visit crucial, and he said it went very well. So obviously that was a good sign for Florida. They just have to kind of show him more stuff on the field when he comes back in the spring. And if that goes well, he's going to schedule an OV. But as of right now, you got to like Oregon and Georgia the most.
That's the formula right there. Get him on that junior day visit, that spring game, and then get him in for the official visit, and you got a shot. Speaking of getting a shot, let's switch over to the defensive line. Kendall Gerville, he's from Fort Myers. He seems like pretty big priority. Where do the Gators stand with him right now?
Yeah, Florida's leading in the RPM. They've hosted him more than any other school. They offered him as a freshman, so Florida's been in the mix for quite a while. And he said when he came back over the weekend that his best relationship in recruiting right now is with Gerald Chapman, the defensive line coach at Florida. So I think that's big time for Florida's staff. USC, Miami, Michigan, those are some other schools in the mix, but I think as of right now, you got to like Florida's chances. Even during the first week of the contact period, they always say tractive visits, and that's the case when the coaches get on the road too. Billy Napier saw him one of the first few days once the contact period opened up. He feels like a major priority for Florida, and I think obviously as the process goes along, he's not in a huge hurry to make a decision, so Florida's going to keep being persistent. But as of right now, as we enter February, I think Florida's a school to look out for the most.
All right. Now, the Gators, they're doing a great job of putting a lot of talent around DJ Lagway, and you can kind of feel recruiting heating up at some of these skill spots. And one of the guys that they're really locked in on is Kaden Proo out of Georgia. He's a tight end. He was on campus this weekend. Where did the Gators stand with Protho?
Yeah, I think right now, as you look at his recruitment, Georgia's looked at as the number 1 school for him. But Florida, I would say, is probably in the top 3, top 4 range. He last visited Florida for the Kentucky game, had a great experience for that atmosphere. Florida won that game, but he wanted more time around the coaches. That was accomplished this past weekend. Russ Calloway, Billy Napier and company, they rolled out the red carpet for him. I'm not saying he is like Kyle Pitts, but that's the type of athlete he is at the position. They look at him as more of a hybrid. So Florida is really saying, hey, we need a guy who can stretch the field. We have a deep tight end room, but we need that guy who can stretch the field and score points for us. That's what Pro Thrower is. And obviously, Under Armour All-American Week, Josh, as other years we've covered it, now they have the juniors in the game now, and he's one of the best. He's one of the best performers regardless of class. So that shows what type of athlete and prospect he is, and it's really no surprise that Florida's rolling out the red carpet for a kid of his caliber. So I think right now he said Florida's going to get an OV. Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama, those are kind of the main 4 that he's looking at. But I think right now everyone's trailing Georgia, but Florida's definitely in that top 3 range.
All right. One prospect that was not on campus that we need to talk about is cornerback Jaylen Waters. Now, his recruitment is truly all over the place. He's a former FSU commitment that's now committed to UF, but looking at Miami. Corey, is he going to hit the trifecta, or can the Gators hold on to him?
It's definitely possible because it's funny. When he flipped to Florida, when he previously committed to Florida State, he was still taking visits, but as Florida closed out the season, that commitment became more and more solid, and he said, hey, I'm locked in. I'm not going to take any other visits. Here we go. Obviously, he just visited Miami. He's going to probably take several OVs as well. Miami's Florida's top competition, but I think as of right now, I mean, people always say, is he 100% committed? I would probably say in the 80% range. He's going to keep taking visits. Miami's the biggest threat. I think he needs to get back in Gainesville for Florida's sake for more of a refresher, because at the end of the year, he attended the Ole Miss game, the LSU game. He loved those atmospheres. Florida won both those games, and he said, hey, I'm locked in with Florida, no recruiting drama, none of that. But obviously, I always tell our fans on our message board, Well, then now here's the recruiting offseason. You take a lot of these junior day visits. He's going to be one of those guys you're going to have to track all the way through the finish line. But I think right now, he's obviously in Florida's class, but it's going to be a guy they have to continue to recruit all throughout the cycle.
Yeah, some of these guys make sure that recruiting stays interesting, and I have a feeling Jaylen Waters is one of them. All right, before I let you go, give me 2 more intriguing names from over the weekend that you think UF fans should start getting to know.
Yeah, I think Clifton Hester from Cocoa is an on-3 top 100 prospect. Billy Napier actually just visited him today at his school. The other week, Will Harris, the secondary coach, visited him as well. He's a guy, he told me before the visit, before he got on campus this past weekend, that Florida was his leader. Syracuse has kind of been viewed as a top competition. Fran Brown, that relationship with his staff is very strong. I think that's one of the guys that I think overall Florida will probably get in the fold sooner than later, especially now showing. I think the biggest thing with him was how big of a priority is he for Florida. And obviously Napier going to go visit him today at the school, that really kind of shows that interest on Florida's end is very high. And I would think another one too, Josh, is Darion Williams out of Tampa Plant. A Florida State commit. He's more of an athlete, can play either side of the ball, but Florida likes him at receiver. And recruiting fans love this. He's committed to Florida State, but still says he has a top 3. You know how that goes. And that's Florida State, Florida, and Miami. Florida is viewed as a number 2 school. He was supposed to be there this past weekend, but couldn't make the trip. But I know right now mutual interest is high. They visited him during the first week of the contact period. So, Waltez Clark's his former teammate who signed with Florida, one of the top running backs last cycle. He's in his ear. So I think as the cycle moves on, he's going to be one guy that Florida fans will need to track more and more.
All right, Gator fans, talk to us in the comment section below. What is the vibe right now around Florida recruiting? It seems so different from last year. Heading into last year's offseason kind of seemed flat, but this year it really seems like the Gators are going to clean up on the trail. So talk to us. Who do you think is the most important recruit in this cycle for the Gators? Let us know. Comment section below.